So you're an existing UK business owner and you're looking at moving your current UK business to Dubai, or perhaps even your whole life. And you need to know what steps to take. So if that describes you, this video is the one that you need to be listening to. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Henriques. I'm an entrepreneur from London, UK, currently living in Dubai. I left my 10-year career as a police officer in 2017, and I have companies across the UK and Dubai. So I've been thinking about live streaming the prep work for this podcast and also the preparation and the live recording. And I'm actually doing that for the first time right now. So let me know in the comments if there's anything that you'd like to see, like Q&A. So if you'd like to be notified when I go live, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and that will help this channel reach more people just like you. So who is this video for? This video is for experienced business owners in the UK who are looking to move their UK business right over here into Dubai. Many business owners, when they want to move their company to Dubai, are doing it for tax reasons, but others are just for lifestyle or more opportunities. But if you are there for financial reasons, make sure you do your maths because it may not quite add up. And it's also going to be relevant for people who are looking at starting their first business or perhaps a brand new startup in Dubai, and you just want to know what the steps are to follow. I'm going to take you through all 7 steps to help you move your UK company to Dubai from the thought that you're currently having now all the way through to you actually being able to get set up and doing business here in Dubai. Step 1, you need to decide between a mainland or a free zone company if you're going to set up in Dubai. Now in the UK, we don't have the equivalent of that. This video is not intended to talk you through all of the differences between the two. There's different criteria and rules and regulations that apply across free zones and mainland companies in the UAE. So you need to do your homework, making sure that you understand which one you need to go down, particularly for those who have in-person businesses. If you're thinking about doing anything real estate, anything that is like a shop, if you've got a pet shop in the UK and you want to do that over here, then you will need to have a mainland company. If you don't know the difference between mainland companies and free zones, I have done another video. It is episode 25 that you can find on the channel. So step number 2, you need to decide if you want to go with a business formation agency in Dubai or if you want to do it on your own. There are pros and cons to both. Now with agencies, that will cost you more. Just plain and simple, quite clearly, if they're going to do the setup for you, you're going to have to pay for the licensing plus also the fact they're going to do it for you. You'll typically get much more support with an agency, but that support can really vary from one agency to the other. Do your homework, check the reviews, and make sure that you're comfortable with the agency that you're choosing, that they're going to give you the support that you need. A good agency is going to increase your chances of a successful application. Bear in mind, it is an application. It is not a guarantee that your company will be opened. And of course, an agency is probably going to know a bit more about how things work out here, the nuances of things that you may not be aware of. But you can go direct. I set up my company in Dubai direct with my free zone, and typically you don't get as much support. For people who are like brand new to business, which this video is not for, but if they are brand new to business, they might find that a bit harder because there's certain general business stuff. If you've opened up multiple companies in the UK before, you're probably already aware of certain terminology like share capital and whatever. You'll be able to answer those questions. But if you are going direct, you are going to need to complete your own application. You will have far less support than going through an agency. Whether you go to a free zone or the mainland company, they are there to set up your licensing. Now, if you are in the UK, of course, you're used to Companies House. For some reason, when people try to set up companies in Dubai, they seem to think that if they're going direct, that the organization, whether it's mainland or the free zone directly, that they're going to give you all the support that you need. Now, if you just think about Companies House in the UK, you wouldn't call them when you're setting up your company and expect them to tell you where to get an accountant from, or expect them to tell you where you can find an office space, or expect them to tell you how to order a taxi. There's so many things that people just have an expectation in Dubai that they wouldn't have back home. So set your expectations right, because if you do need all that extra support, then you might want to be looking at an agency. But if you are going to just set up the business licensing, then yes, you are going to have to do your own application. There may be very limited support, if any, at all. And all that post-setup stuff that I just mentioned there that isn't actually directly to do with the licensing itself, you shouldn't expect that you're going to get that level of support if you've gone direct to a free zone or directly to setting up a mainland company in Dubai. That is why still today, most people will set up using an agency, but you do need to be careful if you use an agency. There are some out there that are unscrupulous. There are a lot of fake reviews. There are lots of agents in Dubai. They are working on commission only. So they're incentivized to tell you things that may not actually be completely true, or they may process an application that they know may be a bit risky getting through. They may not tell you that. And it's not cheap to set up here. So you could potentially lose a few £1,000s if you've chosen the wrong agency. And please, please, please do not be tempted by the too good to be true low price agencies, because there's a few scary things that have happened in the past that I've heard of. One is like the typical one is where your first year's fee seems all right, reasonable, about right. And then the next year they will double the fee. And I had a client recently who contacted me. He's actually not set up a company with me, but he'd set up directly with a cheap free zone, and he ended up having to pay me $500 for me to talk him through everything that he needed to know that they didn't explain to him. And as I just said before, don't expect that the free zone anyway is going to explain it to you. He paid me $500 to go through all this stuff, but there was some stuff that really actually is the responsibility of the free zone, which they just left him completely cold, not answering any questions or whatever. And he ended up regretting the fact he's ever set up with them. So don't let that be you. If you do set up with an agency, you cannot move from one agency to the other. They're not going to allow you to do that. So you need to be careful that you get that right the first time, because your only option, if you really, really hated them and you didn't want to work with them anymore, would be to shut down your company, shut down your bank account. You'd have to have your visa transferred because your company would sponsor your visa. And there's all sorts of other administrative issues that come with it, plus cancellation fees and all sorts. So getting that right in the first place can really make a difference for you. So step 3, you're going to have to choose your trade activities. Now, there are over 800 trade activities to choose from in the UAE, and it is very different to the UK. So people back home, you're very used to, if you're an experienced entrepreneur, you'll know what a SIC code is, SIC code. They're not very defined. They're quite broad for the most part. You can also change your SIC code. You'll typically do that with your annual return. You'll do that confirmation statement, and you will, if there's another trade that you started doing in that year, you just add it on, okay? So that's how that works in the UK. It does not work like that here in Dubai. The trades are very detailed, they're very specific, and typically you'll find, for a lot of companies, they might have 2 or 3 trades on their license. Mainland companies are more restricted on what you can combine together. Free zones will give you a bit more freedom on the types of trades that you can combine under the same trade license. But unlike the UK, where you can pretty much do whatever you want with your limited company license, so your business license to trade in the UK, you can pretty much do any trade you want. There are some regulated activities that you can't. In the UAE, it's very different. So a lot of the time I receive inquiries to my company here where people want to set up as a consultant. And in the UK, if you just classed yourself as a consultant and you did a ton of different stuff, like there are some people that they just do anything and everything as a consultant, that would be fine there. But here you do need to define the type of consultancy that you are. So there are a lot of different consultancy trades, and you cannot carry out a trade that is not on your trade license here in the UAE. You will get in a lot of trouble if you're found to do that. Because there are so many, sometimes people will ask the agencies to help them identify what trades they need to have on their trade license, because it may not be obvious. Sometimes it's really obvious, like if you're an e-commerce brand, it's very simple. The trade is e-commerce and that's it. But if you are doing multiple things or can't quite find the trade that seems to define what you actually do, quite often there is there, but it's just worded in a different way. So it can be challenging to find the trades. Speak to an agency if you have trouble with that. If you are going to set up on your own, either as a mainland company or under a free zone, they are probably going to expect that you will decide on your own trade activities. Okay, so now we're on to step 4. This is where you actually start to do stuff where there are time frames in that, because everything I've said before could take you anything from a couple of hours. I had one client not that long ago that contacted me and within a couple of hours just decided, paid, and got everything on the way, whereas others take months. It just depends on you. I'll give you some guidelines in terms of times it can take. Now, just to be clear, these are not set guides for you. It will vary on a case-by-case basis. These are general guidelines. So do not come back to me giving me shit for the fact that I've said it's going to take a week and it's taken you 6 weeks, okay? Because that might be something very specific to you. I'm also only talking about unregulated activities. Regulated activities can take way more time. So if you're doing anything in crypto space, broadcasting, telephony, internet, space stuff, whatever, yeah, you should do all that here. Regulated activities, any financial stuff, anything to do with property, like letting out property, selling property, whatever, all of that is regulated. So they can take longer. I'm just talking about unregulated activities, which is actually what most people so far from my observations are actually doing. So once you've decided whether you're going to go mainland or a free zone, you've decided your trade activities, it's then time for you to start your application process. Typically, they will request payment from you first of all, and then that application will commence. There are some places where that may be the other way around. They may start like initial application and then request payment afterwards. But either way, you're going to have it very, very close together. Now, this process can normally take 1 to 2 days. If you're quick with the information that's being requested of you, then if you're not sure what a question is asking you, because it may not be obvious, at least make an attempt to ask before you just put information down, because you could pay, your application can end up being rejected, and then you've just lost a few £1,000s and have to start again. Now, one of the things that you as a UK business owner is not going to be familiar with is paying for licenses annually. So you're used to in the UK, now it is £50 to set up your business and you never pay that again, but you will pay a shitload of tax. However, you will never pay for your business license again. In the UAE, whether you've gone from a mainland company or a free zone company, you are going to pay an annual license fee. Unless you paid for a few years in advance, if it's been allowed for you to do that, you're going to pay an annual license fee. It's not going to be £50. You will be expecting a few £1,000s at a minimum for your license here in the UAE. That cost is going to vary depending on a number of factors. Mainland companies, the main factor is going to be the agency that you choose, or if you set it up directly. With a free zone company, it can be the agency you're going to choose, the sort of admin fees that they charge. It could be, depending on free zone to free zone, the different rules. Some free zones will charge more depending on the number of visa entitlements that you have. It depends on the number of trade activities, mixed trades, whether they're professional or commercial trades, if they're regulated or not. Fees can massively increase for regulated activities. And of course, the level of support that the agency is going to give to you if you're setting up with an agency can wildly vary, anywhere from a couple of £1,000s extra to 10, 15, 20,000 pounds. Many will only take a bank transfer. Typically that will be the case. Sometimes they may allow card payment, that you should expect that you are going to pay an extra few percentage. It is an international payment. You'll have to make your payment to a UAE account. That can present its own challenges. Sometimes I've had clients where they paid and it's come through the day after. I've had 2 clients recently where they had challenges with a particular UK bank sending the money out of the UK to the UAE. One of them took nearly 3 weeks. The bank made him go into the branch, prove who he was, and to check it wasn't fraud. So it can be difficult for transferring. It can vary. It depends on your bank. I found that banks like Wise, Revolut, well, those 2 actually, particularly, are the ones where it tends to be pretty easy. They're like the challenger banks. As I mentioned earlier, it is an application. There is no guarantee that the authorities will allow you to have the trade license in Dubai. So you need to understand this isn't a paid for exercise. It is an actual application. Checks will be done on you. It's not all done by the free zone. Some of it is by the UAE authorities. You need to be prepared for the fact that your license could be refused. I haven't personally heard of it happening before, but I am aware of reasons why it will be refused. A lot of them may be down to your nationality, certain connections that you may have to certain groups. There are a number of other reasons which typically we'll look through prior to submitting an application. Typically, agencies should be gathering all the required information that they need they should know what to look out for in terms of things that are likely to trigger a challenge or just a complete rejection for your application. Some of them may not be as honest as others and may not be forthcoming, where they might see that something is a problem in your application but may process it anyway because that gets them their payment, and you are not going to get a refund. Okay, just put it out there. You are not going to get a refund from the free zone or the mainland licensing. Be warned, most agents are commission only here, and they may be incentivized, particularly if they've got their own financial pressures, to push through an application that may have quite clear challenges. If your application fails for any reason, be advised, most agencies do not operate like mine, where we do offer 100% refund guarantee under certain circumstances for some of our services. However, most agencies will not be doing that, and you just need to be careful. Make sure that you're quite confident with your application that you're making, that there isn't anything in your history, in your past, anything you're associated with that may come up as potential risk. If you're concerned, ask the agency beforehand, get them to put it in writing. Again, I still can't guarantee that you'd get a refund from that, because likely their contracts will be very clear. Once it's submitted, that's it. If it's rejected, that's on you. Step 5 is the approval process. This can take usually between 5 to 8 days for the authorities to approve the license. There are some that will do it a lot quicker. There are VIP services available as well, where they may process that much quicker. However, as a general rule of thumb, look at 5 to 8 days for a license to be approved by the authorities and released to you. However, you just need to bear in mind there may actually be quite a lot of back and forth between you and the authorities if you're doing it direct, or the agency may be having a lot of conversation back and forth about you. You may not be privy to most of it. It's only if there's extra information that's required, extra documentation that may be required, queries that may come up that may be raised about you or what your company intends to do. So it's important that you are speedy with your responses. Bear in mind, there are certain deadlines that may be imposed by the free zone, by the agency, by mainland authorities for you to actually process information. So if you are someone who's usually not very good at responding, you just need to bear in mind for that 1 week or so, get good, or get someone, like if you've got an assistant or something, who can help you with that, because information will be required and eventually they'll just terminate your application and you lose your money. Okay, so don't do that. Be responsive and be upfront and honest about things, because the authorities may have discovered something about you. They may have asked a query around it, and if you lie to them, trust me, you are going to get rejected, and you may even end up being excluded from entering the UAE potentially. I can't say that for sure. I've not heard of it particularly happening, but why would I have? Just be careful that things are quite strict here. Don't be lying on your application. Okay, so then what's going to happen then is, once your licenses are released, that means your company is formed. That means you're now a business owner in Dubai, and that will free you up to trade in the UAE. However, there is obviously one thing missing, and that one thing is for you to be able to accept payments from your clients, customers, whatever you want to call them. You are going to need a bank account, right? So for you to get a bank account in Dubai, you are going to need Emirates ID, which means you will need to have a residency visa, which means you also need an establishment card, which will be applied for directly after your license is issued, which only takes another 1 or 2 days. That allows you to then sponsor yourself and other staff members to work in the UAE and have residency here in the UAE. On to step 6, that is the visa process. If you want a bank account in Dubai, which I guess you probably would if you've opened a company here, you are going to need Emirates ID, and so you are going to have to go through the visa process. There may be some ways that some agencies have available to you where they can help you get bank accounts opened for your business. I'm not actually aware of that process, and there are people that specialize in that who they will charge you for it. It's not going to be free, it's not going to be cheap either. But if you don't want to go down the visa process, perhaps look for that first. If you are going to go down the visa process, like most people, this is what you need to follow. First of all, if you are with a free zone, you are going to have a maximum number of visa sponsorship entitlements on your license. That doesn't include your application fee. That is the entitlement, meaning you can sponsor up to that many visas under your company license at any one time. It doesn't mean that you have to sponsor them right away. It is a maximum. So if you've got 3 visa sponsorships on your license, typically they'll come with 1. But let's just say you upgraded to 3. That means you can sponsor up to 3 visas, including your own, through your company license. I talk about the visa entitlement versus visa application, what the difference is, in episode 27. So go and have a look at that afterwards. The time taken for this step can vary based on how quick you want to be. It can take anywhere from a couple of weeks up to just over a couple of months for the whole process, depending on you. Typically, really, if you're looking at longer periods of time, that is more about when you actually come to Dubai and do your medical and whatever. The visa process, there is a lot of steps involved, which I'm not going to go through the whole lot with you. I did do a video on my experience going through the visa process in episode 15, so look back through the channel if you want to see that. Very briefly, I'm going to outline the main steps for you in setting up a visa. First of all, you need to complete your e-visa application. Once that application is submitted, that will normally take sort of 6 to 8 working days for the UAE authorities to issue your e-visa. The e-visa is required for you to enter the UAE. So typically we'd advise clients, don't enter the UAE until your e-visa is issued, because if you're here on a tourist visa and then you need to switch to an e-visa, you'll need to pay to cancel your tourist visa and then get reissued your e-visa. So it's easier just to have it done before you come to Dubai. I'd always recommend that you've given yourself enough time, 1, to open up the company completely, have your establishment card done, because you can't apply for the visa until the establishment card is ready, and then have enough time that you're going to have for you to make that e-visa application before you plan to come to Dubai. Don't think about today, oh, I'm going to move to Dubai next week. Book your thing, you haven't even got a company set up, and then expect it to happen, because you're going to end up paying a lot more money for your visa to be cancelled and reissued. So once the e-visa is issued, you have 60 days, that's 60 days for you to enter the UAE from the date of issue and complete the full visa process. That is your medical, your Emirates ID application, your biometrics, and submitting the details over. You have 60 days to do all of that. So from the date that e-visa is issued, you can then enter the UAE. You have 60 days to complete that process. However, do not leave the UAE until your visa is issued, because it could be cancelled, probably will be, and you may be charged when you leave. So make sure that you don't plan to leave the UAE. To complete your medical, biometrics, and Emirates ID application can take anywhere from 2 to 5 days for you to complete that process, depending on, again, on you, how quick you are to deal with it, the type of service, because there are VIP services and there's also normal services available, like anything in Dubai. That can vary, but 2 to 5 days is typically what I would say for you to complete that process. I normally say that to be safe, 5 to 8 working days for your residency visa to be issued and granted by the UAE authorities. Then another 1 or 2 days for the Emirates ID to be sent to you. You can leave the UAE before your Emirates ID arrives. You just can't leave before your visa is issued, otherwise it'll be cancelled and you have to do it all again. So don't do that. So now you've got your fresh Emirates ID in hand, then you can make your bank account applications, which could take anywhere from 1 day to a couple of weeks. That's really going to depend on your company, the bank that you try and apply with, if you've got all your documents ready, if there's any queries raised by the bank, particularly if you're in a more risky industry. But you know, I've had clients and myself who've opened up their bank account within 1 or 2 days. Most commonly, that's what I'm finding, but it can take longer. Now you've got your business open in Dubai, you've got your residency visa, you've got your bank account open. Now it's time for you to have a conversation with your accountant. And to be honest with you, actually, you probably should have had a conversation with your accountant way before you even started. But anyway, it's now time for you to have a different kind of conversation with your accountant about moving your assets from your UK company to your UAE company. It is not that complicated a process unless you've got leverage on them. It might be harder in, loans and stuff like that. But typically for a lot of businesses, particularly service-based businesses, it's not going to be a complicated process. You just speak to your accountant, get it all done, drawn up properly, and they will talk you through that process. It's not for me to do. That's for your accountant to help you with that process. And with that, they'll also help you decide whether or not you're going to keep your UK entity open. There might be reasons why you might do that. For example, if you were acting as payment processor from the UK to your UAE account, like if you had a lot of UK-based customers that were more comfortable paying money there, or maybe had restrictions on why they can't send the money abroad. Like I said, it's a conversation between you and your accountant to decide on that. If you decide to close your company down, then they'll take you through that process. They may charge you for it. Now you're operating from your Dubai business, let your customers know, let your suppliers know, change the contracts, terms and conditions, all that important stuff that you need to get done, all the legal bits. Then you can just be happy trading. So that's it. You're done. That's the 7 steps that you need to follow as a UK business owner for you to transfer your UK business over to Dubai. So a very quick recap. For you to get your company license issued, you should expect that to be done within 1 to 2 weeks from the time your application is submitted. Plan to take at least probably 2 weeks for your visa stuff to be done. Beware of that 60-day cutoff, because it is a cutoff. Your e-visa will be cancelled and you'll lose your money if you don't do that. And just be mindful, there are things that do apply in the UAE that you may not be so familiar with in the UK. So even if you don't set up with an agency, I would highly recommend that you contact an agency after you've set your company up, if you are doing it direct, or an accountant, just so that they can help you with the regulatory stuff so that you're compliant. Because, for example, if you don't register for corporation tax within a specified period and do that correctly, then you could be hit with a fine, which is approximately £2,000 if you don't do it in the right time and in the right way. So just bear that in mind. There are some things that you may not even be aware of, and the authorities, it's not their responsibility to educate you. That's for you to do, just like it is in the UK. If you decide that you're going to ignore the fact you have to register for your taxes in the UK and not pay HMRC, you're going to find out about it eventually. It can be challenging to move to a new country, even as an experienced entrepreneur, because there are things that you just don't know about. Those little things may be picked up through agents, your accountant, or other consultants that can help you, particularly if you've never run a business before. Please do yourself a favor, even if you just have a consulting call with someone, $300, whatever, to have a call to talk you through that process, things that you need to adhere to, the steps that you need to follow, because you could find yourself in a whole world of shit if you don't. Okay? So that's my advice to you. It's free. You're welcome. So anyway, I hope that was useful for you. So if you want help moving your business to Dubai, click the link in the description. So since you stayed with me this long, please like and subscribe. And most importantly, share this with someone who you think this really could help. I'm Henriques. Thanks for staying with me.